Hello everyone, it's 10 Types here today, joined by budgetptcg, and today we're doing a draft style event where we each are going to choose 3 of the sets in standard and then build 3 separate decks with each deck only containing cards from one set. And it's just going to be a 3 best of 3s, and whoever wins that overall will be the winner. It should be over the course of maybe 4 videos where we're going to do the draft in this video and the gameplay in the other videos. So you are going to be starting off. So what are you thinking of as your first pick?
Yeah, since I get the first pick, obviously, taking the best and see where it goes from here. And I think the first set is pretty clear to me, and that's Sword and Shield. Pokemon-wise, it's good. And actually, it's there's cards that I wouldn't even probably play, like the Drizzile and Teleon engine, which is obviously really good. The Cinccino engine, you have Frostmoth, Rillaboom that accelerates, Energy, Sable IV, a lot of good things that I probably wouldn't play for a simple, but it has Zacian, Zamazenta, and Oranguru, so that's all the Poke cards you need for a very viable standard deck right now. And then it's got by far, I think, the best trainers. It's got Research and Marnie that you always want to have. It's got Quick Ball. Great Ball will be useful. It's got Evo Incense, even though I probably wouldn't even use it. Got Air Balloon and Switch, which you want in that deck. It's got Aurora Energy if you decide you need that. Crushing Hammer, Metal Saucer. So I think it's a really loaded set.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. You have just so many options. I honestly, that was not the set I was going to choose first, believe it or not. And I'm going to go with Shining Fates as my set. It has a lot of really powerful cards. The thing, I guess, honestly, it's not lacking too much. The really great thing about it is the Shiny Vault section of it. So you have access to stuff like Boss's Orders and Professor's Research, as well as a number of really powerful supporters like Bird Keeper you have, which is pretty good. You also have Peers, and then you also have a lot of really great Pokemon. You have Crobat V from the Shiny Vault section of it, as well as the good Coughing that has Ascension and Galarian Wheezing. Crobat, as I said. You also have stuff like Decidueye. You have the Flapple that can place damage counters. You have all of Mad Party. You have the Inteleon engine. I believe you have the Cinccino engine. And then you also have Eternatus V and V Max, which is just really powerful. So overall, I feel like this set has tons of options and honestly has a lot of really crazy stuff it can do.
Yeah, it's a really good set. That was my number two choice. I think where it's a little short of Sword and Shield is in the trainer department. Obviously, it's got Research and Boss, which Sword and Shield doesn't have, but Sword and Shield has additional things. But it has for like Eternatus, has Crobat. It has the good, like you said, Wheezing with the good Coughing. Even can use like I said, Decidueye, Dhelmise, Rillaboom. So a lot of good choices there.
Yeah, and I also one thing to note that Sword and Shield obviously doesn't have Boss's Orders in the set, but it does make up for that somewhat with something like Pokemon Catcher to be able to gust your opponents. So I think you have options even if you don't have Boss's Orders. But what's your next pick for the third pick?
Right, yeah. So for my next pick, I think I'm going with something that you would not have picked in this spot, and I'm gonna go with Brilliant Stars. And the reason for that, it's a really interesting set to me. It's got a lot of options. I think it's got the most options, decent options of any of the sets. In terms of the trainer side, well, you have the double turbo energy. You've got Boss. You've got Magna Base if you go Fire. Ultra Ball, which is a great card. It has Research and some other things too. So it's got good support there. In terms of Pokemon, my initial thought with that is going with the Fire and with Entei V, Moltres are really good cards. You have Luminion, which could go in that set or almost any set to be able to search out a supporter whenever you need to. So it's got good stuff there. It has the Oranguru to switch cards if you want. Moltres V, which is a terrific card. Wormadam, Torterra. And it also has, with those alternate art cards, a lot of good things, including Sylveon. So that's a real another good way I could go is with Sylveon and then a mix of different types in it, including when I was looking at it, I considered what if I try a Sylveon Wormadam deck? Could I make that work between the two with hitting for all sorts of weaknesses?
Yeah. Oh, and one thing to point out, I imagine in the comments a lot of you will be wondering, what about like Mew VMAX and Arceus V-Star? We actually don't own either of those. They are quite expensive right now. So there's still a ton of other really amazing options, though. And honestly, stuff that you'd much rather see over Arceus and Mew. So that's why we're not choosing those sets. But yeah, as you said, Brilliant Stars. Just like in the name, it is really brilliant. You also have stuff like the Zapdos V, Moltres V, Sylveon. You have Urshifu, Umbreon. None of the special energy really to support them, but you have a lot of really powerful VMAXs. And then you have engines. You have Liepard. You have Bibarel. You even have Tornadus as like a pseudo gusting option, as well as Umbreon as a gusting option. So I think this set's really powerful. And you even have Farfetch'd if you want to put that in, which does more damage for each damage counter on them.
Yeah, I mean, to me, that it's just the deck. It gives the most options of different ways you can go, which I think it's intriguing. So hopefully it comes up with one good deck for what we're doing here.
Yeah, and then I'm gonna go for my second pick. I guess I'm gonna go with Evolving Skies because Brilliant Stars does have a lot of options, but so does Evolving Skies. You have Sylveon and all the evolutions, even more so than Brilliant Stars with a special set. And then you have the Zapdos and the Glaring Zapdos, Glaring Moltres, the Vs of those, which are really powerful because you can just hit different weaknesses, which is really good. And they're cheap. The Zapdos is cheap. Moltres powers itself up. You also have something like Suicune V, which is really good. Obviously, just a really powerful Pokemon in general. There are a number of interesting water types, which are really catching my eye. You have Ludicolo as well. And then you also have something pretty interesting like the Ice Cube, which is immune to basic Pokemon, which is really interesting, especially with you choosing something like Zacian. Likely, it's not guaranteed that you'll be choosing Zacian. You could go some other route, but being able to wall basic Pokemon is really powerful. And there's also Flaffy with Rayquaza. There's Dracozolt VMAX. And there's a number of just really powerful cards. And then in terms of control, there's actually some options here as well. You have the Ribombee, which allows you to move an energy from your opponent's active to one of their benched. And then you can also use something like Sharpedo as gusting. There isn't Bossaurs in this set, but you have Sharpedo, which can gust for one colorless energy. And you also have Zoroark, which can become any stage 1, which is extremely powerful. You can use this in control-based decks. You can also use this with something like Flapple, which just can do massive damage if they have a lot of abilities in play. So overall, I feel like Evolving Skies has a ton of options. What it is weak on is the trainers somewhat, but you certainly have decent options. You have Raihan, which is really good. You have some decent items to search stuff out. You have Stormy Mountains, Zinnia's Resolve as well. And overall, I feel like this set's just really strong.
Yeah, it is a very strong set. I think the fact that it has Raihan makes up for a lot because Raihan just makes almost every deck better. And then you have other, obviously, like you said, you have Stormy Mountain, you have Crystal Cave. If you go that route, Copycat just help you get cards in general. And I try, yeah. So Duraludon, Rayquaza, Sylveon, Dracozolt, Lycanroc, Umbreon. All these great VMAXs, Suicune, Leafeon VMAX also. You could even go with Jumpluff if you want a little quirky little deck and try to make that do something. So I think there's some good choices there. And like you said, you have Zoroark, so you have a lot of options. And you make me nervous with that because I think you're going to go for a Zoroark deck that's going to make my life miserable when we play.
You'll see. There are a lot of options, though. But what's your final set that you're going to choose here?
Yeah, so for my last set, which was actually my 4th pick overall, Evolving Skies was my 5th pick. These are close, though. I'm going to do Darkness Ablaze. And Darkness Ablaze, the big Pokemon that came out in that was Eternatus. You have Crobat if I go that route. That's kind of the obvious thing to do. Eternus Crobat, and then you have Tears for the supporter to get it. You have Hiding Dark Energy. You have Capture Energy, which could help with that or with any deck. You have Decidueye. There's Mad Party in it also. But without the Twin Energy, I think that would be a pretty tough thing to pull off. You have Vikavolt in it. Hoopa, if I go with Dark, that's probably a natural include. Some other you have Bird Keeper for supporter, Cape of Toughness if you want, Rose Tower, Rose to accelerate to VMAX. So some options like that. That's the last of the sets I'm picking.
Okay, yeah, that set's really strong. You also have something like Yellhorn as disruption, which is really interesting. I feel like the supporters in this set aren't super strong. You have Piers in combination with Crobat, which is decent. But then you have to rely on like Bird Keeper, which isn't the strongest draw. It does have nice synergy with Hoopa, but then you also have something like Kabu, Shuffle Draw 4, or Shuffle Draw 8 if you only have one Pokemon, which isn't amazing. Pokemon Breeders Nurturing to search for evolutions. And then you have like Rose Tower. But overall, I feel like Darkness Ablaze is strong. It's almost directly outclassed by Shining Faith, which is really interesting. But yeah, I think Darkness Ablaze, that was also in my top 5. But then for my final pick, I'm actually going to go with something I think is pretty interesting. And it's not as strong, I wouldn't say, or at least as consistently powerful. But I'm going to go with Battle Styles. You have a lot of really powerful options in this set. You have some of the weirder stuff like Durant. You can even go Cherim with Tapu Bulu. But then, of course, you have stuff like Victini. And you have really powerful stuff like the Urshifus. The Urshifus are just so good. Specifically, honestly, both of them, single strikes, I feel are going to be too clunky. But then you also have Rapid Strike, which is just so good. Gale Thrust is really powerful, dealing 150 for only 1. And you have Cheryl in the set. So that's really amazing. And you also have tons of switching options. You have Tower Waters and you have Escape Rope. And then really interestingly in the set, you don't have the best engine, but you have something interesting. You, of course, have the Octillery, which can search for Rapid Strike Pokemon. And then you also have the Golbat Crobat line, the Stage 2 Crobat. When you play the Stage 2 Crobat, you draw 3 cards. And when you play the Stage 1 Goldbat, you draw 2 cards. So pretty decent, not amazing draw, but it's certainly not bad. And Crobat also has free retreat as a pivot with something like Escape Rope. Yeah, and then you also have a few more things. You have the Bronzong. You can go for Bronzong paired with maybe Corviknight VMAX with Cheryl. But I feel like that's a bit clunky. But there are a bunch of different really interesting options.
Yeah, Battle Styles was something I was strongly considering, although it fell. It was number 7 on my list. Just when I was trying to think what could I do. I mean, I think the Rapid and Single Strike are really good, and I really particularly like the Rapid Strike. I just am not sure without will it have enough of an engine? I don't know. And then the other thing which I liked was the Corviknight Bronzong deck, but again, can it get up and get going? The Golbat Crobat combination to draw certainly makes sense. It's going to take a lot of deck space though, and you do have Kricketune V in that, so perhaps that can be used to help draw too. I'm not sure. And then you have Victini, which is strong in and of itself.
Yeah, you also have something really interesting that you doesn't see pretty much any playing Standard, but that's Camping Gear. That is an item card that searches for any card. Of course, your turn ends once you play it, but that can really allow you to set up, especially when you might be struggling to find some of your Pokemon. You have Level Ball, which is nice, works well with Golbat, and then gets you the Remoraid, but doesn't get you too much else overall. But just having the Level Ball to get some basic setups is really good. You also have Karinas to draw, Bruno to draw, and then Cheryl, which is just so strong. And you even have Disruption like Fana Waves, and you also have something like EXP Share if you want to go down a different route there. But what were some of the sets you were thinking of that maybe were just outside the top 6? Or what was your 6th pick? Because you said it wasn't Battle Styles.
Right. So my 6th pick was Rebel Clash, which was a tricky one. I was kind of back and forth on that. It's got some good Pokemon in it. It's got Eldegoss V. It's got Dragapult is probably the main attacker. Part of my issue with Dragapult is I have 3 Vs and 2 V maxes, and that's probably one short of each of those, at least of what I'd want to make it viable. It's got the Inteleon V max, but without Melanie, I don't think it can really work. You have like the Phalanxes if you want to go with that setup. So it has some good cards. Flapple, throw down damage, and there you have Galarian Wheezing. Not with the good coughing, but at least you do get Galarian Wheezing if you want to go that route, and the Butterfree if you want to mess around with that. Capture Energy, which is always great. Horror Energy, if you use Dragapult. It has Boss in it, which is always good, and Scoop Up Net, which is a big plus, and Sonya. So that was my 6th choice.
Yeah, that makes sense. That would have been my next choice if it weren't for Battle Styles. There's also an interesting card that hasn't seen much play in Standard, and that's the Masquerain, which has a really interesting attack called Threatening Pattern for 1 colorless on a stage 1. You do 30 damage, but then during your opponent's next turn, they can't attach any energy to the defending Pokemon, which is really powerful, especially when there's not a lot of switching. So you can hopefully get something stuck in the active and then just stop them from attaching any energy. It's actually really interesting if you're against something like Zacian. They have resistance on you, so you won't be doing any damage, meaning you can just get them stuck in the active forever, or at least stuck and then not be able to attach any energy, which is a really interesting and really powerful combination in my opinion. You also have the Appleton, same one that evolves from the Applin, so you can pair that if you're playing Flapple. You can Gust on a basic Pokemon on a coin flip, which is really nice, and that's every single turn. So consistent gusting is really nice. You also have Eldegoss V, and then you have Boss's Orders in the set, but I'm going to go with Battle Styles, and hopefully have some interesting things with like a bunch of different attackers. But so that's all for this video. Parts 2 through 4, which are going to be the gameplay videos, will be coming out soon, and stay tuned for those.